Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast today. Before we dive into it, I request all of you to subscribe to our channel, show some support because the more subscribers we get, the better it is for us, and we feel happy about it that we are growing. Okay? So, today on our discussion is feminism. And let me mention that Sadia is on the podcast with me today. Hello, Sadia.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Walaikum assalam. Okay, so Sadia, today we are going to talk about feminism. Okay?
Yes,
So let me take the beginning on this because I really like this topic and I think it's a major issue in our society and it needs to be addressed. Now,
yes,
I
you're
think the youth है ना हमारी, they have been somehow misled or misinformed about what feminism is. ठीक है, कुछ लोगों की understanding सही नहीं है. So when I see youngsters supporting feminism, मुझे जो है ना थोड़ा disappointment होता है. And I felt it is important. Let's talk about what feminism is, its position in Islam, and what it entails, and why is it wrong, in my opinion. Okay, I'm very much against feminism. Now, see, by definition, feminism is basically a belief in which people believe that women should be given equal rights in politics, in economy, economic discussions, in everything. And basically, feminism is a concept that came about from the Western traditions. It first took birth in the West, and that's when we had the first wave of feminism. It was a period in the 19th century and the early 20th century in which women were fighting for the basic right to vote in elections. Now, that is something that is acceptable. Islamically, we are given equal rights to vote. Men and women have equal rights in a lot of things. It is, as long as it is acceptable. That's one thing I want to emphasize, as long as it is permissible and acceptable. Then after that came the second wave of feminism, and that happened in 1960s to 1980s. And during this time, women tried to address other issues like cultural inequality, the role of women in the society, because women wanted more acknowledgement in the West. They didn't want to be seen as women that stay at home, that just give birth to children, that raise kids. That they wanted more than that. And then, although there was quite a lot of progress in that time, there were still some shortcomings and some drawbacks that later led to the third wave of feminism. Now, this happened in the 1900s, the late 1900s, like 1990s and 2000. And this was when they addressed other issues, especially in the labor department, like at working places and things like that. Until today, sadly, most of these issues have not been resolved. So this wave, I think, is still going on. And this is why people have started raising more awareness about feminism. So now let's talk about it from an Islamic point of view. When we talk about Islamic feminism, okay, I don't even see why women should argue for equality with men. Sadi, what is your opinion about this? Can we argue about equality?
the way I look at it, feminism has two parts to it. Firstly, देखो Western, जिसको पूरी दुनिया follow करती है, and then we also have the Islamic aspect of it. So in my personal view, I look at it as two different things. I'm not completely in support of it because when I look at it critically, feminism, looking at it from the Western point of view, it has no limitations. It has no
Exactly.
bounds in the sense that women try to equally compete for recognition and every other thing equally with men. And I find that a bit wrong because
Yeah,
Islamically we have some limitations to it. We
yeah,
cannot completely compete with men on certain levels, both
exactly.
biologically and morally, for example, let me break it down to very low layman levels ताकि we can all understand it easily. But typically, if we look at it as from our job perspectives, if we are in a job setup, women work with men alongside, but they should not forget that physically we have some limitations. Yes, not all women do. Some women are really very strong physically and every in other aspects also. But I feel like it is wrong to completely compete with men equally in
Yeah,
some things.
from a Muslim point of view, I'm talking about it for our Pakistani society or Muslim society. That you see, we
Yes.
cannot forget that we are an Islamic state. And
Exactly. And I feel that people, especially in our country, people have started mixing it up with the Western point of view. And if you do that,
yeah,
then it is completely. because then you're completely forgetting about your morals, your ethics, your religion, your teachings completely. It goes a different
Islamically,
direction.
yes, and Islamically, God has created men and women alike, similar in a lot of ways, but He gave leadership to men. We cannot forget that. We are
Exactly.
in a position to
Forget
argue
that.
about it, or try to deny what God has ordained. It is a law that men are supposed to be the leaders. So what are women trying
Exactly.
to prove? I don't understand. I don't get it, and I don't
And
appreciate it.
there's something I feel in the name of feminism, especially in our country and in our culture generally. Feminism is, it's like women tend to take advantage of it at times and use it in the wrong
How?
sense. For example, chalo, I don't mean to come out as offensive, but personally, I'm completely against this LGBT movement. You understand?
Yes, exactly.
I feel feminism
Thanks
is
for
taken in completely wrong direction over here. I'm not talking only about Islam now. I'm talking about all the major religions in the world. All these major religions teach us through scriptures and all of our teachings that LGBT and these things are wrong. I mean, these religions preach against it. तो फिर ये
very true.
क्या नई wave है that is accepting this?
Yeah, Sadia, there was a video I even saw recently, and it's by a very reputable, respectable man named is Sahil Adeem. And in that video, it kind of shocked me when the girl was asking questions that, like, for me, they were not even right to be asked, especially because she was the young girl and she was definitely a Pakistani from our society and a Muslim, undoubtedly a Muslim. And then she had these questions about why is it that men can and would like to marry four wives, and why is it important to them, even more important than prayers? Like that's a very absurd question if you ask me, because you cannot compare a woman to a man. Like, what do you want? A woman
Very
cannot
common.
marry a man. And
Saying it is even more important to marry four wives than prayers is completely wrong. Okay, it is not Islamic. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why women tend to add things on their own and just make remarks senselessly. It's only to gain sympathy, maybe, but it's really wrong. Do not say such things.
Yes, someone has asked
and
me
I
the
think
same thing.
she was trying to argue about it from a feminism point of view. I mean, do you want to be a female that has 4 5 husbands at the same time? I mean, what kind of woman are you then? It's such a senseless argument. And then another question she asked was about childbirth. Why is there a pressure on women to give birth to children? I mean, for God's sake, it's a natural cycle. Why do you get married? What is the concept of procreation? If people do not marry, how will there be children? If there are no children, the world will cease to exist. I mean, it's common logic. And trying to look down on this and trying to promote feminism, showing disregard for Islamic values, it was a very wrong thing to do, in my opinion. And I think most of the youth today is being psyched into this, because it's all, like, I think it's a movement to corrupt the mindset of young people. At the same time, like, the discussion also in the video led to LGBT, just like you mentioned. And honestly, I'm very much against this also. Okay, to me, it's a very shameful act, because the question that comes to my mind is, how can the world, especially the Muslim world and even the Christian world, forget about Sodom and Gomorrah? I mean, it's a known story that the entire civilization was eradicated because of homosexuality. That was a grave sin. And now, using feminism or equal rights for LGBT and trying to, like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to destroy the balance in life. You're trying to destroy what God has created. So I really am against
Exactly.
feminism. I don't agree with anything related to LGBT, to be very honest. It's against the morals. It's against the rights of humanity.
And you know one thing, Mona, Islam is a very fair religion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Women are given rights. जिस तरह आदमी का दर्जा है उस तरह औरतों का भी दर्जा है.
बिल्कुल.
We cannot look down upon each other. Yes, but never forget that Allah has given man the authority over women
Exactly.
for a good reason. But
बिल्कुल.
जहाँ तक equals, we are equal. आदमी का अलग दर्जा है, औरतों का अलग दर्जा है. हमारा दर्जा ही इतना बड़ा है as women too कि we are mothers.
Yeah.
And that changes a lot of things.
Very true.
And what I mean, we go into a bit of a deeper part in this. अब for example, ये जो सवाल है, बहुत common सवाल है कि when men can marry 4 wives, why aren't women allowed to go and have other husbands, more husbands? I mean, listen to it. Even ethically, morally, religiously, it sounds wrong. लेकिन अगर आपको biologically भी देखना है ना, I'm not a medical person. लेकिन correct me, I think you have more knowledge over this. You can use the right words to explain it better. But for example, when we get married.
Okay. Let me add something here. Okay, like when you talk about the scientific aspect of reproduction. The male and female cells need to mix and merge, and it's a natural way that God has created it. So denying that, I don't see how. I mean, is it right? You cannot justify it in any way. What do you have to say about this, Adya?
Yes, we cannot justify it. You see, for example, when we talk about the male and female reproductive aspect, the female ovaries, the egg gets fertilized, right? But remember that it's only one reproductive cell that can fertilize it at a time.
From one single man. It cannot come from 3-4 men. I mean, then that means we are like animals, like cats and dogs.
Exactly.
That's so
That is
wrong.
just exactly, and that is nature, and that's the way God has created us. So doesn't that already speak something in itself? You know?
Exactly. This is what I marvel at. Like the Western way, the videos, movies people are seeing nowadays have ruined the mindset of the youngsters, especially when it comes to morality, when it comes to right and wrong. And they tend to use feminism and these kind of senseless arguments to try to make their point valid and try to validate feminism. Whereas on a very honest,
Exactly.
it's a recipe for a disaster. It's ruining the next generation.
It
And it's
is,
kind of
and that is, I feel यहाँ पे it if feminism is looked at in two different ways, the Western way and then the Islamic way, that is where the conflict comes in. If you look at it from the Westernized aspect, there are no bounds, there is no limitation. You should remember Islamically there has to be some limitation.
one mistake most of the youth is making is they do not understand that people promoting these kind of things are people without God. They don't have a religion.
Instead,
So
the youth is trying very hard to become Westernized.
look at this feminism is a movement with an agenda to eradicate any kind of religious beliefs, whether it is Christianity or Islam, because these are the two religions that are very close to the right path. So feminism
Exactly.
is a concept created and promoted by the West, especially by people that have no God, that are pagans, that do not believe in any God. And they're trying to ruin the roots of religions like Christianity and Islam, where there is still a fear of God.
Yes, lekin another thing is that all this is correct. Lekin people should also remember that feminism does not mean completely taking some things permanently against women too. You
Yeah,
understand? ये जो movement started in the first place to promote women's rights, right? It's
okay.
good
Here I
at
would like to refer
level.
to my podcast about misogyny and sexism. Okay, that is something
Okay,
you should vote against. Okay, misogyny and sexism is something that should not be encouraged. But using feminism
exactly.
in the wrong
I
way to
wanted to.
that is still wrong. It's a wrong approach.
Exactly.
Well, Sadhya, we've come to an end to the end of this podcast. So I think what we should do is wrap it up here with the
Okay.
insistence that feminism is not a good thing. And if you are promoting it, know your grounds properly. Because even if you're using feminism to fight for something, make sure it is for the right thing.
Exactly. And most especially, don't forget your religions, your morals. Remember that it has limitations. Don't take advantage of it to promote your personal interests.
Exactly. Well, Sati, it was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Mona. It is always wonderful talking to you too.
Okay, so let's call it a day here. Have a nice time.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.